I think we've reached the point of Piñata Puppy World's Dare I Jinx development and should start taking a look into its storyline. Yes, I know, we've gotten our fill of lore here and there since the game teaser announcement was released over a year ago, but have you ever fully understood what it all means? Be honest, have you just taken what you've seen or heard at face value, or have you seriously looked into it? With all due respect, Real-Time Studio has been rather quiet as of late regarding any insights into the lore, let alone the progress of the actual game itself. That leaves us to speculate based solely off what we have seen so far. So today, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into some potential Piñata Puppy World storylines and likely open your eyes to some new theories. But before we get going, remember to like the video if you found it useful or informative, and be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I have a little surprise in store for those who do. As we already know, the game is primarily focused around the 2000s. From the graphic designs to the elements utilized throughout, it's intended to capture a moment from our youth. And in all honesty, that's really it as far as being concrete. Everything else, like how the characters are relevant or even necessary to the game's overall story, good or bad, is strictly speculative. That's unless Real-Time Studio gives us some sort of update revealing the direction of the game in some capacity. But being this close to the originally expected release date of Piñata Puppy World, it may not even happen at all before it's available for purchase. But if you've been following the game's development through my channel's playlist, you know I can make sense of what little there is and formulate some pretty compelling storylines for Piñata Puppy World. Let's take a look at a few of those now. I've been saying this since day one, and it's still a top theory in the Piñata Puppy World community. In the gameplay trailer, I noticed a sign showing an eagle with binoculars telling us not to litter. What really caught my eye was the part where it said, "Harold watches your every move." If that doesn't set off some red flags about this eagle, well, here's another point. When Real-Time Studio released their Meet the Crew video, that thumbnail looked a little bit troubling to me. Not only did it officially tie in Harold the eagle with the rest of the crew, but he didn't look too thrilled as compared to the other three. Piñata Puppy was looking cheerful, Laura Slockness was just chilling there, and Gay Gecko was happy, but Harold was straight-faced. Furthermore, Harold was eyeing Gay Gecko hard. Not like he was staring into the distance aimlessly, but like he was watching him intently, waiting to see if he was going to mess up. I wondered for a while why he was directing his attention to Gay Gecko, and then it hit me when I explored the Piñata Puppy World website. While helping Gay Gecko sort through the ingredients needed for the cake, he says something that I now can see as a subtle call for help.
If we mess up even once, it's totally over for us. I believe in you. Watch my back, will ya?
Now this could simply pertain to making sure he doesn't mess up with the cake, but why phrase it like that? Why not just say something like, "Let's do this together," or "There's no I in team," to tie into the 2000s theme and Gay Gecko's persona? Then when asked about Harold the Eagle himself, Brandon Badger, the town's historian, reveals absolutely nothing except for the fact that Harold was the town's sole founder and is personally in charge of Memory Lane's records and information. So having one individual completely able to control the records of a town, one in which he single-handedly created, without any oversight from its citizens, and simultaneously enforcing his own rules without any opposition from the town's residents, yeah, that totally doesn't scream out totalitarianism at all. I know this isn't really a supported storyline theory per se, but it is important to mention nonetheless. When Piñata Puppy World was announced publicly, the indie horror game category had mixed feelings on it. At this time, we already had multiple chapters and installments from both Five Nights at Freddy's and Poppy Playtime franchises. And based off the game teaser, it seemed like just another mascot horror game. And to be fair, it looks it. Let's examine the two indie horror games' premises. Both of them take place, initially, inside a children's entertainment center of some kind. Both of them have us try to uncover some sort of secret that will uncover a rather sinister plot. Both of them have possessed animatronics trying to hunt us down so we can't thwart said plot, and all the animatronics have been interconnected with children and manipulated to do the evil doings of a superior entity or being. Now disregard the fact that we don't officially know the Piñata Puppy World's direction just yet, and you could easily see it shaping up to potentially be a carbon copy of the other two's core concepts. I get they can't stray too far from the mascot horror theme's fundamentals, but making yet another game where you are endlessly being chased around by killer animatronics and tasked to find certain things can get repetitive fast. I can only hope that the idea of understanding mental health and dealing with past traumas is enough to set this game apart from the rest. There's no way we're being tricked by Piñata Puppy, right? Right? Wrong. Take a look at this clip from the gameplay trailer. Any idea who that may be? Teal colored fingertips, yellow ears, and what's that? Oh yeah, the same exact anatomy as the face of the Piñata Puppy World Children's Center. The one and only Piñata Puppy. But how could that be? Was it not Piñata Puppy that suddenly appeared on our TV randomly? And listen to what Piñata Puppy says in this clip.
You know, least expect it. Sometimes it's time to grow up. Some things, some people. I'll always remember.
Let that sink in for a moment. When you least expect it, sometimes it's time to grow up. I'll always remember. It sounds like the protagonist is being told that we gotta face the music for what we've done, and look at Piñata Puppy's facial expression in between those lines. Piñata Puppy looks down and takes a deep breath, then looks right back at us and smiles. Then we see the actual animatronic wave at us from behind a barrier. Don't be fooled, people. Piñata Puppy isn't trying to help us get over or past her at all. Piñata Puppy's been plotting revenge all this time and now sees the opportunity to enact upon it. As to the why and how, that mystery is still to be discovered, if at all, before it's too late. The final theory I have is probably the most innocent and likely one to exist, though it might not be as popular as some of the others. Piñata Puppy World and the center it's held within are being used to mask a trauma that we, the protagonist, cannot live with otherwise. By ways of suppression or repression, Piñata Puppy World is a veil used to cloak a particular event in our lives, which I would take an educated guess as being from our childhood. Now here's the ironic part. It didn't happen at the Piñata Puppy World Center at all. I believe it occurred while the protagonist was in school. Why do I say that? All throughout the gameplay trailer, it kept showing real-world clips, with a few of them being in a school. Now based off personal and outside observations, chances are high that the protagonist was bullied while at school. Though severity is unknown, it must have been enough to where the school guidance counselor got involved to provide the protagonist some sort of aid. Whether it worked or not, we may never know. But perhaps within these counseling sessions, the protagonist started to psychologically recall a happier time where there was no bullying, Piñata Puppy World. This is where the main idea of the game comes into play. Its focus is to address the mental health struggles and wide varying feelings of nostalgic depression and walk through the steps of reflecting on the past via walking through the old memories and location of the children's center, Piñata Puppy World. I think that the protagonists use their positive memories of Piñata Puppy World to conceal the negative memories of the present. Should that be the case, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Piñata Puppy World crew serve as vessels of real-life people, and certain events that occur while we're revisiting the Puppy World Center will masquerade events of the protagonist's own life. An example of that could be Piñata Puppy having a heartfelt conversation with us about not letting Errol the Eagle pick on us for acting a certain way, when in reality, it mimicked the discussion we had with a parent giving us advice on how to deal with a bully. And perhaps was struggling to find the right cake ingredients like in the website's minigame was really just a protagonist not being able to play soccer during recess and got bullied for that. Now I want to pivot to a set of theories about Piñata Puppy World that were made not by me, but by a frequently sought after entity, Google. Specifically AI mode. I asked what are some Piñata Puppy World theories, and I gotta say, they really make you wonder. It's important to note that AI mode bases its responses off of what's already available publicly, like from chat rooms or even my past videos about Piñata Puppy World, and rarely generates an answer that is original. Here are just a few I found. The digital purgatory and memory storage theory. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that the vibrant, child-friendly world isn't real, but rather a digital simulation or a purgatory for dead children. The concept. The colorful mascots like Piñata Puppy, Gay Gecko, and Laura Sockness represent individuals who experienced severe real-world trauma or died. The evidence. Theorists suggest their consciousness or memories are being preserved inside a computer database or an old children's museum server. The game openly prompts players to reflect on the past while exploring the abandoned Piñata Puppy World Children's Center. It seems like this response was highly influenced by Five Nights at Freddy's and Poppy Playtime, especially the parts where it mentioned the victim's consciousness and memories were being preserved in some sort of a database. In Five Nights at Freddy's, the dead kids were put into animatronics and soon their minds blended within the machine. Thus, the possessed animatronics were born. In Poppy Playtime, the orphan kids' minds were fused within the animatronics through experimentation, and due to some technical issues, they became evil. The abandonment and homelessness backstory. Hidden lore uncovered from the mysterious bus stop books in the ARG heavily implies a tragic backstory regarding Piñata Puppy's life before entering the magical world. The concept. Piñata Puppy was originally a stray, abandoned, or homeless dog seeking human connection. The evidence. In-game text describes a lonely puppy waking up on a bus, desperately trying to ask working salarymen to be his friend, only to be ignored. The final line of the story text explicitly reads, "All I remember is a cardboard box." This implies the characters were offered a chance to escape an unfair, harsh reality for a beautiful, magical place. This concept can easily relate to each of the 3 main characters because each one was left alone or became lonesome, as referenced through their origin stories depicted in each of their books at the bus stop as mentioned by the AI prompt. Then to save them from their isolation, they found refuge at Memory Lane. It's an interesting theory, but I don't see how this could dictate the storyline for the protagonist except for, which is really stretching it to say, Memory Lane will serve as an escape for us like it did for Piñata Puppy, Gay Gecko, and Loris Loch Ness. The real-world cover-up theory. The developers released an in-fiction website tutorial and commercial that featured a hidden glitch. When users manually type the URL or interact with the elements, they are redirected to a real-life operational phone number 831-265-5136. The concept. The Piñata Puppy World franchise was originally a real establishment or a TV show that was abruptly shut down due to a tragedy, and the current game is an investigation into that cover-up. The evidence. The creepy distorted audio recordings found by calling the hotline and the heavy emphasis on using a grainy VHS camcorder lens hints that the player is uncovering lost media or police evidence regarding what actually happened at the physical children's center. Out of all the AI theories, I like this one the best. It doesn't have anything to do with the mental health focus that Real Time Studio wants it to be about at all, but it could make for a great mystery. I figured that the Piñata Puppy World Center was closed because something bad happened but got thrown under the rug by those running it, but the fact that the game is serving as the actual investigation into that is compelling. And the tie-in of the VHS tapes and other older media files used throughout is really the actual police evidence from that investigation is a concept I wouldn't mind seeing at all. Manifestation of psychological flaws. The character descriptions hidden within the game's files point to a theory that the mascots are personified coping mechanisms or manifestations of severe mental health struggles. The concept. Each mascot represents a specific psychological response to trauma or a destructive behavioral coping mechanism. The evidence. Piñata Puppy represents burnout and people-pleasing. He tries to solve everyone's confusion until he is entirely exhausted. Gay Gecko represents masking identity. He puts on a cool guy persona to hide who he really is, keeping secrets from his friends. Loris Loch Ness represents avoidant behavior and abandonment. Her laziness causes her to take the easy way out, even if she leaves her friends behind. This theory is similar to my one about how Piñata Puppy World is really just the way the protagonist is dealing with past trauma. It differs because where I consider the characters or events were masking the protagonist's real life, the AI prompt is saying that each character is the embodiment of a specific response mechanism. For example, Piñata Puppy constantly seeks approval and becomes hurt when no one cares. Gay Gecko hides his true self from others by using a cool guy persona to fit in, and Loris Loch Ness avoids uncomfortable situations by simply removing herself from them rather than confronting it. Those were some interesting theories, right? I bet at least one of them stuck out to you and made you wonder, wow. Hearing those theories gave me some ideas on what Piñata Puppy World could be about. If only there was a way I could tell Red Hot Guac about them. You remember the surprise that I mentioned in the beginning of this video? Well, here it is. A few weeks ago, I made a poll asking you all to give me your theories into what you think Piñata Puppy World's storyline is going to be about. A few of you responded, and here they are for the world to see. But before I do, I just want to bring up the concept of punctuation. This is not a knock to any of you by any means, but I will say that reading some of these comments were rather challenging because there were many run-on sentences throughout. So for all you watching, I will do my very best to break up those run-ons without losing the ideas mentioned. The first theory comes from Yun Zhao Di. Okay, so I was thinking in the song Liminal Lullaby plays at the end has a key role with the lyrics leading to betrayal or no other choice. As you can see in the website at the treehouse, something passes by behind you in a reflection while the Morse code and pictures or videos glitches of Piñata Puppy. And people have said they got the Morse code ends, "Where are you, Harold?" and you can't remember part of your childhood. In tons of theories videos of Piñata Puppy World, they talk about Harold and how he was a member of the cast of Piñata Puppy World but he doesn't appear. He has his book but the other story works, but his glitches. He stares at you with binoculars and it might have been in passing by the door entrance of his treehouse while you're there in the website. The drawers and notes you need keys for. The badger jokes around and is worried and doesn't say much about Errol's quote in his book since it glitches so you don't read in. And he rushes to tell you his quote of the story but it might not be true. Maybe, and maybe, I believe since he shows up in posters but in the phone calls for calling characters and seeing them, or meeting them, Harold was rejected. We have no source if they're animatronics, real ones created, or something like Indigo Park mascots when you hear the employees who wear the suits talk about them being unemployed or losing their job because they won't be needed after they make the mascots real. They have real blood, flesh, and they're real, but maybe created in a lab. So what if Harold was a key part of our memory, but maybe he's hiding somewhere in the Piñata Puppy World place, and in our past we met him, and maybe he has that toy that keeps appearing at every beginning of those videos of memories, or getting into websites and calling or something. Or maybe he told us or made a scene, or harmed, or killed, or it was a failed experiment, or nobody noticed, or liked, or wanted him, so they removed him from the Piñata Puppy World cast. By the way, he's the owl. They first mentioned the song or phrase, liminal lullaby. I'll be honest, this is the first I've ever heard of that term, and after looking into it, it appears to be a trend used in many horror-related soundtracks. My search referenced this video made by Fredbear channel called The Walton Files Faces of Grief Liminal Lullaby. I'll play a clip of this now so you can hear it for yourself.
Where did time go? Look at you go. Hey, I know it's been a while and I love to see you smile. But before you say goodbye, let me sing you a liminal lullaby.
Unless this is just a bad reference, I'm not seeing how this is tied into Piñata Puppy World, but it could very well just be me not having enough insight into the Walton Files to fully grasp that connection. Then, Yun Zhao Di briefly mentions the Morse code message but soon goes all over the place. To sum up the remainder of the comment, a good point is eventually brought up. Errol the Eagle may have been rejected and removed from the original cast of Piñata Puppy World, whether that be from a fault of his own or simply because he wasn't liked as much as the other three, thus making him full of anger. Towards the end, it's mentioned that the Piñata Puppy World animatronics were actually experiments made in a lab, but when they malfunctioned they became violent, so on and so forth. Overall, if I understand your points clearly, I could get behind the idea that Errol the Eagle has been ostracized, pardon the avian pun, and takes it out on others, the protagonist included. But as to the others, I'm not really seeing them as being that likely. Also, since when was there ever an owl mentioned in the Piñata Puppy World universe? The next theory comes from ConnorBoy1461. Before I read what was said to all of you, I want to give a special shout out to ConnorBoy1461 because they submitted not one, but two theories. The first one, Piñata Puppy Show, also known as the adult that wants to talk to Father Time. The player is trying to remember something from his past and all the signs lead up to his favorite show, Piñata Puppy Show. He goes through everything he can just try to the series and back this up. Do you remember the teaser Everyone Wants to Explore? That leaves my second theory, look below for that one. In their first response, they believe that the protagonist has forgotten something and realize the only way to find it is by looking at the trauma through the filter of Piñata Puppy World. The second theory, a missing piece. Inside the abandoned Piñata Puppy World, the player is trying to get something from there, either a memory or item from his past so he can finally move on with this life. But there is no such thing as adventure without danger, and something must have haunted him in the past, so he imagines Piñata Puppy trying to hunt him down so he can never truly remember what he lost all those years ago. The second theory, which is really good I might add, focuses on the protagonist trying to move on. But since adventure cannot exist without danger, the protagonist personifies the fear from their past as a Piñata Puppy animatronic, which tries to hunt us down relentlessly. So could any of these theories be the actual storyline of Piñata Puppy World? I definitely could see a few of them being strong contenders, but let me know which ones you feel are the best in the comment section below. As always, leave a like if you found the video useful or informative, and subscribe for more Piñata Puppy World news, updates, theories, and more going forward. But with all that being said, hope you have a great rest of your day, and take care.